Hey everybody, it's John Kraska, EveryLibrary and the EveryLibrary Institute. It's another edition of EveryLibrary Live, which I love doing. It lets me pretend that I'm a late night talk show host, and I understand that there's going to be an opening coming up, so consider this a demo reel. CBS. I mean, why not? Books, libraries. Who wouldn't want to talk about that in this current day and age? Actually, that is probably half the problem for Stephen Colbert right now. EveryLibrary and the EveryLibrary Institute are focused on the future of libraries, the future of library work, and the rights of readers to access books that they want to access. It is an interesting moment right now in America where that disconnect between our constitutional rights to read and the marketplace of reading. I mean, folks, we need to have good conversations, both with nice, interesting authors like our guest today, Auston Habershaw, as well as big conversations around the rights, the structure, the conduits of reading. We're doing these author events, of course, to connect readers to authors, but also to bring together the idea that what's the fundamentals about libraries? It's author to publisher to library or bookseller to reader. Here at EveryLibrary, that's what we do all day long, is work on those kinds of big issues, and we'd like you to be a part of it as well. You can visit everylibrary.org. But do that after I bring in our guest today, Auston Habershaw, author of If Wishes Were Retail, which is our big conversation, Tachyon Publications. Auston, let me do the formal bio, and we'll get into learning a little bit more about you and the book, okay?
Okay.
So Auston is the author of the Saga of the Redeemed series. He's worked as a lifeguard, a barista, a waiter, a QA tester, a dog walker, a hotel bellhop, a pedicab driver, an SAT tutor, office drone, a bunch of other random things, Auston, you told me. You are now a science fiction and fantasy author writing about the could be and the never was. And I dig that as a framework, which is one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. You also teach composition and literature at the University of Boston. And you can find Auston online. Let me put it up here formally at ahabershaw.com. Auston, welcome to EveryLibrary Live today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So if wishes were retail, crack me up. Seriously, I mean, you've got, yeah. I mean, so it's obvious to me that your work, I'm sure, academic work, whatever. It seems like your work as a pedicab driver and a hotel bellhop has snuck into your fiction.
For sure, that was a very formative period of my life. I decided I was in my undergrad at Boston College, and I had was training to be a high school teacher. I was a secondary education minor and an English major, but what I really wanted to do was be a writer, and I kind of decided at the end of my college career that I was just going to take the jump, and my only criteria for a job was something that could pay my rent and leave me free to write in the evenings. And so I just took from about 2000 until 2010-ish, about all the way through my 20s. I did all kinds of random stuff, whatever paid the bills, whatever I could get, and it was really very important for me in the sense of as a fairly privileged kid who had come from a upper middle class background from a wealthy suburb, and I went to a fancy private college. Actually getting out there and working on the so-called front lines of our society for about 8 to 10 years was really important in forming, what I thought was important about the world and what the experiences of people were like and the struggles we all go through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's probably one of the reasons that the setting here for If Wishes Were Retail is a mall. No offense.
Yeah.
And also that it's a cash business. Because seriously, that's like who wants all the reporting requirements and everything?
I know.
Yeah. Can you take our listeners through a little bit about the book, please?
So the book is it's. I've written a bunch of. I'm a short story author as well as a novelist, and a bunch of the short stories I've published over the last however many years have been this idea of taking a fanciful creature and putting him in the context of the regular world, not for the purpose of like, oh my God, it's a genie. But like for the purpose of like, look, they're just here and they need a job, same as everybody else. They got to eat. They got goals and hopes and dreams, and juxtaposing the fanciful with the realistic in a very sort of liminal, um, non-fantastic way, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And this genie idea came to me as an idea for a short story originally because I thought it was just funny. The idea that, because you see all these random shops in mall kiosks, like the things that, not even the things that have storefronts, the things in the middle of the mall that are selling all kinds of weird stuff and things you'd never think to buy. And I thought, like, wouldn't it be funny if there's a genie sitting here selling wishes for money? Because it
Hmm.
would create such a weird dynamic. Like, what do you pay for a wish? Like, how much do wishes cost? Um, and it wasn't small enough to be a short story. So as I explored the idea, it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I was like, okay, fine. Looks like I'm writing a novel, and it went through numerous drafts and eventually came out to be the thing that you read. And so that's sort of where it comes from. And it's the idea that Genie wants to make his way in the world. He's trying to start a business and become a member of society. And he really has no idea what that involves or how modern society works. And the story is told from the point of view of his teenage cashier, Alex, who is, a teenager. She's 17 years old and she is really tired of her genie boss's nonsense. And
Hmm.
you get it from her very sarcastic point of view most of the time as she's going like,
Hmm.
oh, can you believe this guy?
Yes.
So
As a parent of a junior in high school and a junior in college, there were certain moments that were very identifiable. But she's not a one dimensional character. Alex is by any means.
oh no, certainly not. I wouldn't call her that.
Well, it's not like you have you got a fish out of water
Yeah,
problem potentially as a writer here with a genie who doesn't know about modern society. You got
right,
the potential for the one dimensional foil,
right.
yeah, but I don't think it went that way. I mean, I mean, the mall is even like they, they they talk sometimes about how New York is a character in this book. The
Yeah,
mall's a character in this book too.
yes. I spent a lot of time in my youth going to malls, and
Yeah.
as I got older, saw them degrade and degrade and degrade until now that most of them are shadows of what they once were. They sort of lost something hard to define, which is something that I kind of mess with in the book about like what exactly is a mall and why why do so many of us of a certain age have such nostalgia for them? Because they're essentially just shopping centers. A shopping center is a shopping center. Why should it be such an important part of um, our development or childhood or our identity with community?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the mall is a character in its own right. And I think also Alex's view of the mall and the way in which Alex approaches it is really instructive. We really see everything in the book through her eyes. And that was a challenge for me, just as, as a 40-something-year-old man to sort of inhabit a teenage girl and see the world through her eyes. And as a teacher, I'm a college professor. I meet a lot of 18, 19-year-old young women in my classes and stuff. And I felt like I could do that. I felt like I've known so many, and I have a freshman in high school myself and a
Hmm.
middle schooler. And so that was part of the challenge for me in the book is sort of trying to get down to that level and look at that world through her eyes
Yeah.
and the opportunities and lack of opportunities it represents to her.
Well, I mean, to somebody who's that young, the mall is just a place of decay. Somebody who's our age, no offense, I mean, it's a place of
Yeah.
nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Alex sees it as a place of decay. She has a vague memory of when she's a kid going to see Santa.
Hmm.
But like, to her, it hasn't really played a role in her life. It's just a place to get a job, a stupid job, like a job that she thinks is a total waste of time because like who goes to the mall anyway?
Hmm.
And you can just shop online. And indeed the mall is just basically a vestigial organ of the big box store at one end, right? That is where all the money comes from. It's got a version of, name any one of the big chains at
Hmm.
one end that basically is all the traffic in the mall. And
Hmm.
then occasional people wander around and to the food court, and
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Well, I want to come back to that theme around consumerism and kind of corporate culture and some of that commentary in the book. But I want to start off, if I could, with a conversation about wish making, because the idea of a genie. I mean, just let's come back to the premise of the book. There's a genie. The genie wants to open up wants to be a productive member of society and decides to sell wishes. I thought it was like you rub the what do you call
The
it?
lamp, the
The
lamp,
lamp.
yeah.
Thank you. It just went out of my head. I could picture it. It was quite lovely. You rub the lamp, you get them for free. Like, what is wish making? It's desire. What is wish making? Though it's also consequences and sometimes unintended consequences.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think one of the things that the genie struggles with and has always struggled with so he was imprisoned in a ring, not a lamp, for many thousands of years.
Well, but I mean, mythologically, like the common. So please, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And he was enslaved and was made to do this, and was doing it. And when he finally is freed, and I don't get into how that happened, but it just, it happens at some point in the past. The only thing he really knows how to do, the only thing he's ever done for millennia is grant wishes. So he's like, okay. But his whole problem is that people never wish for the things they really need. They wish for the things that they immediately want.
Yeah.
And that therein lies the whole problem for him, because he is not a malevolent entity. There's a lot of genies in literature that are out to trick you or harm you or hate you or despise you. The genie really doesn't. The genie is wants people to get what they want, but they never ask the right questions and they never wish for the right things, and he also isn't perfectly omniscient, so he doesn't always know what they mean. And there's a lot of jokes in the book that surround that, ways in which he misunderstands this or that, the other thing, and it causes all kinds of problems. But I think, kind of, if I'm gonna analyze myself, I think part of what I'm saying there is that so much of consumer culture is oriented around giving what giving us what we think we want,
Hmm.
and so little of it is oriented around actually giving us the things we need to be legitimately happy and healthy and successful, and and that there's a disconnect there, and that we've been trained to only want the things that we just immediately want, right? Like, there's a woman in the book at one point who wants to wish that Chris Hemsworth is her husband,
Hmm.
and someone else in the line, or actually there's Alex, says, he's married, right? Like, and the woman's like, that's why it's a wish, right? I just get what I want, and not thinking about all the implications of that. So yeah, I think if I'm saying something about consumer culture, it's that we've become often very thoughtless consumers, and we don't think clearly about the implications or even the perceived benefits of the thing that we're supposed to get. Um, so yeah.
The idea that wish is wish is desire made manifest.
Mm.
Wish is desire made real. Um, is there in this commentary on consumer culture? But where does it come from you as an author? Like, what's the motivation for you to have written this particular set of characters at this particular moment, or has this been percolated for a long time?
I think partly from my background and partly just looking around at the world, um, it seems to me, and there's a line in the book that says this, that we are surrounded by more material opulence than any people before us,
Hmm.
going all the way back in history as far as you want to go, right?
Hmm.
Like, and yet so very many of us, I don't want to say necessarily majority, I don't have the actual numbers or anything, but like, so very many of us are not happy and are miserable and constrained and struggling, and it doesn't seem to make any sense. Like, it doesn't seem to make sense.
Hmm.
You would think, with this much technology and wealth and knowledge and everything, that it would get easier, not harder. and I don't want to say necessarily their lives are harder than they were like in, I don't know, pick any time in history, but it
Hmm.
does feel that way, right? To very many of us, that life is so hard. And I struggled, during those years when I was trying to become an author. Surprise, surprise, I did not make enough money to become a full-time author. Almost no author does. And I I really had to wrestle with the idea of like, do I really want to pursue this writing thing, or should I just listen to my mom and go to law school?
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't listen to my mom. I didn't go to law school, a fact which I think she still bemoans. Um, but like we all have to sort of wrestle with these problems on a day-to-day basis, and our dreams are so important to us, and yet we seem so poorly equipped to achieve them so often.
Hmm. One of the reasons that Marx was wrong was not necessarily because of the dialectic. It was because you can get ice cream
But
anywhere, anytime. You know?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's there are things, I will say, there are things that Marx is dead right about. There's plenty of things he's right about. I think there's also a lot of things he's wrong about, and I think the
Oh, yeah.
same thing goes for John Smith.
Yeah.
And the capitalism and communism are two ways we're trying to solve the same problem,
Hmm.
and I think both of them need to learn from each other on some level. And I don't mean in this book to get into a whole conversation about that per se, but it's hard to ignore when you're talking about
Hmm.
the productivity of workers and like what you earn for your labor, and you know capitalism and communism are deeply interested in that, and should, if we go according to the rules all the systems set out,
Hmm.
should benefit us in the ways that they say they will, but they so frequently don't, and that
Yeah.
goes for both capitalism and
Well,
communism.
I mean,
So,
how do you make manifest then? The idea of a wish that cuts through any of those political dialectics. You
well,
know? No,
the problem
seriously.
is that those don't solve the problems as
No, they
easily as
don't.
you'd hope.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an easy solution, and that's part of what
Mhm.
the book is
Mhm.
playing with. Is that it's what frustrates the genie so much,
Mhm.
and that informs the end of the book, which they don't want to give away. But um, that we are so caught up in things that are not central, or not the main thing that make us happy.
Mhm.
And notably, I didn't want to write this book as like a lecturing screed about my ideas of what's wrong with work in our society. So that's why I made it as lighthearted a comedy as I could reasonably make it. But
Mhm.
at the core of it, what we're really talking about here is why aren't we happier than we are, and what does
Mhm.
our work and our labor have to do with it,
Mhm.
and what does money have to do with it? And I think it has a lot of things to do with it.
Yeah.
None of them as simple as they seem, though.
Well, I think the world building that you did too. I mean, is it is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Is it speculative fiction? Like, I don't want to try to pigeonhole it, but it's a very fast-paced read too. By the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very short. Usually, my other books all my other books are swashbuckling epic fantasy, so they're much longer. This one was so short that I was worried about whether or not I could even sell it because it seemed so tiny. I mean,
Mhm.
it's 270 pages, which is a totally reasonable length for novels historically, but
Mhm.
lately, like, novels have tended to get longer and longer, in most of the
Mhm.
genres I'm writing in. And so I finished it, and it was like 70,000 words. I'm like, well, that's just great.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
can't. One of the drafts I padded it out, but it didn't work, so I had to chop it
Mhm.
all out again, and
Mhm.
so here it is.
So when we're looking at a world building like this, who's do you have an author? Do you have a screenwriter that you really look at and say, if I could do it as good as them?
Oh well, I mean, for a book like this, the granddaddy of this kind of book is Terry Pratchett.
Yeah,
I
I was
mean,
also thinking about Terry Gilliam a little bit, but
yeah, no,
yeah,
I would agree with that
the
as well. That Terry Gilliam
maximum, yeah,
traffics in the absurd in the same kind of way that this book
yeah.
does.
Hmm.
Um, but Pratchett always, he wrote a really ripping, good tale, a very enchanting, funny, exciting adventure. But at the heart of it, there was always something very real and
Yeah.
interesting he was trying to
Yes.
unpack.
And set in suburban London.
Yeah, well, yeah, he'd
Yeah.
said it in suburban London.
No, what I
I
mean
haven't.
is that the world is definable, but then he pulls it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I also one of the books that I might cite as an inspiration for this is On a Pale Horse by Piers Anthony.
Yes.
The first of the Incarnations of Immortality series, in which a guy accidentally becomes death.
Yes.
And he has a job now, and he's got to be death, and like it's this whole, and it's this really weird world, which is sort of the real world, but there's so many fantastical elements sort of inserted into it in very comical ways, very frequently. So,
You know what? That now that you say that, I get it, because that didn't. The one I thought about was from Hitchhiker's Guide, where the fella is the incarnation of the god of rain, and and rain follows him everywhere. He can't get away from it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Douglas Adams also
exactly.
is on that list for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so this is EveryLibrary Live. We talk about libraries all the time, Auston. I need to close our conversation today, which has been delightful, with a little bit of a sing for your supper here. I need to learn a little bit more about how libraries impact your life, or librarians. I'm looking for the fond memory. I'm looking for the little anecdote, if you've got one, about a library or a librarian in your life.
Well, I very strongly remember my hometown library. I was every year for some years, I was dropped off by my parents at my piano tutors, which was just up the street. And after my piano lessons were over, I would have to go back to that library, and I would study there until my parents got me a couple hours later. And so I'd spend 2 hours a day in the library in my hometown. It was a very good library. I grew up in Hingham, Massachusetts, at a wonderful public library there. And that's where I would often finish my homework early, and I would start reading books. And I found the fantasy and science fiction section, and that's where I read Dune for the first time. That's where I read Foundation for the first time. That's where I read all the classics. I went through Arthur C. Clarke and all that stuff. And so, libraries were really key in my journey to becoming a writer. That's where I realized it was possible, and it was a thing that I really, really wanted to do.
Yeah,
So
without having access to that kind of collection privately, it's so hard to. I mean,
I would never have known any of those names were it not for them. This was also before the internet too, so like there was no way to even find out. I'd have to ask my dad, and he would maybe know or maybe not.
Yeah.
But without a library, yeah.
So what's next for you? This one. If Wishes Were Retail, it's set to publish or just published. Forgive me.
Published in June, so it's been out for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, they sent me an ARC. I'm like, where's the finished version?
Well, I could show you a picture of it.
Oh, you got it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's over here. This is what it looks like now.
Very similar. That's awesome. Yeah.
It is pretty much. They changed the color in the background pretty much. Otherwise, it's more or less the same.
Yeah.
So that just came out. I also just released a collection of my short stories, which also happen to be at arm's length.
Yes, please.
Which is called Faceless Galaxy. These are a series of linked science fiction short stories that I published. Not all, 7 out of 10 of them have been published other places. 5 in Analog, Science Fiction and Fact, and 2 other places. But this just came out. This is gritty hardcore science fiction, like Alien Noir is kind of like, it's about a shape-shifting assassin in a dismal space civilization. So that just came out through my agency, through Jabberwocky. And then I'm working on more books and short stories as we speak. Hopefully you'll see more from me soon.
That's wonderful. Well, I know that the folks who keep in touch with EveryLibrary Live on Facebook, on Instagram, on where else are we? We're on YouTube Live, are going to be very interested in chatting with you more and learning more about you folks. This has been a good conversation, Auston. I appreciate you very much for it. I want to make sure that everybody takes a look at what we're up to as part of this big conversation about reading and about connecting authors to readers at everylibrary.org. In the meantime, man, this was nice. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the conversation with you. And the Pierce Anthony callback. You're gonna have me going back to the books. Actually, not to the bookshelf, but I got some stuff in the attic. I gotta go dig it out. I think it's up there. You know,
it's a deep cut. It's a deep cut, but it's a fun book. I really love that book.
I dig it too. Auston, what a treat to meet you. What we always do at the end of these Every Library Lives is we wave when I hit stop, and then we talk in the green room. Okay.
Okay, great.
Good. Nice to be with you.
Good to see you too.
Cheers.